Ah, here she comes. Shall I unmute you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Vanessa, we haven't met. But,
we haven't. Lovely to see you and everybody else on the call.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. You can the floor is yours for the next 15-20 minutes or so, and so feel free. Introduce yourself and your subject.
Oh, I don't really have a subject. I'm a landlord. I started in property in 2004 and just built up my portfolio over the next 10 years or so. And in 2009, my husband and I, we started a small property online networking group for me and about 30 of my friends. And over the last 11 years, it's grown to be one of the busiest and most engaged property communities in the UK. It's called propertytribes.com. Don't know if anybody here is a member. We have about 60,000 members. Our YouTube channel has over 1,000 videos, 1 million views. And yeah, I'm very fortunate. I've got a nice life thanks to property. I'm running the Property Tribes community as the property manager. Property kind of community manager, and I do a little bit of consultancy for industry stakeholders, property companies, the government, those kind of entities on the property sector. I think because obviously I've run Property Tribes for 11 years, I've got a unique insight into landlords, their pain and their gain, so to speak. So I do a little bit of consultancy work and running my property portfolio as well. So that's my life really.
Okay.
It's a bit odd because other people seem to have services to offer. I don't have any service to offer. I'm just a landlord, so I've got nothing to promote or.
No, we don't. I mean, we don't on MING. It isn't about. It's not about promoting ourselves on here. We are just. Yeah, we are. We're just. We are a free thing. And I know you have a lot to do with Property Tribes. Do you want to just discuss exactly what Property Tribes is all about? It's a forum. I mean, I've been on there a couple of times myself. It's a forum, and I've seen you on a certain page as well, where all around about the training industry and what's going on there.
Well, Property Tribes is basically a community driven knowledge sharing bank. So anybody can join Property Tribes, share their knowledge, share their experience, their opinion. If you have a question about property, you can go and get it answered there. We mainly started it for if we look at the demographic of landlords in the UK, and I use the government figures, so forgive me if you don't agree with them, but there's actually not that much information out there about the makeup of landlords in the UK. But if we use the government figures, they say that there's 2.5 million private sector landlords in the UK, and 97% of those are small landlords, and they decree those as landlords that have 3 properties or less. So only 3% of landlords in the UK are what are determined portfolio landlords who have 4 or more properties. So Property Tribes was really started for the 97%, the kind of mass landlord market, if you will, because in our opinion, they're the landlords that need the most help and support. And the reason that I say that is because most of them don't even realise they're a landlord. They're a teacher or a vet or a doctor, or they have a profession. So they're not really wearing a landlord hat most of the time. They don't engage with landlord issues. When everything is going well with their portfolio, they don't really think about it. They're busy in their everyday world with their kids, cats, dogs, holidays, work, etc. So when everything's going wrong with their portfolio, it's very much on the back burner. They're not really thinking about it. It's only when something goes wrong that then they suddenly want to engage with landlord issues. And obviously I'm speaking generally here. This doesn't apply to all small landlords, just this is just our experience of Property Tribes. And essentially, really, most small landlords are what I would say are in cure mode. So something goes wrong and they seek to cure it. Really, they need to get into prevention mode, because we all know that prevention is less heartache, less emotional stress, less financial loss. So really at Property Tribes, what we tried to do is create a community where we could create educational commentary for landlords by the community, because that's very, very healthy. It's far better to get your inputs from multiple people than just one person, and that could help solve landlords' problems. Now, clearly, once we've captured a landlord that's got a problem, then we can introduce them to content that actually helps to seek and make sure that that problem never happens again. So if they appear on Property Tribes because they've got a tenant in, say, rent arrears, which is one of the most common problems that landlords obviously suffer, particularly in the current market conditions for some, this gives them the opportunity to receive support about that, and then they will be presented with information about how to vet a tenant, so that they can avoid or certainly reduce or mitigate the risk of ever having a delinquent tenant in their property again. So we're trying to really move landlords from kind of cure mode into prevention mode. So that's not to say that portfolio landlords aren't on our site, because they are. Hundreds, thousands of them are. And actually, they're the ones that answer the questions and support the newcomer landlords. So we have a very wide range of people joining our community and our question, asking questions or joining in. They can be from somebody that's just this second thought that they want to get started in property, right through to somebody that's got 600, 700, 1,000 properties.
Okay. Couple of questions. What are the most common questions that you see in your forum? Or do you have anything specific? Or
well, obviously, since lockdown, we've had an absolute torrent of new members joining and discussions starting, to such an extent that we actually created a new category. I mean, Property Tribes, for those that don't know it, a tribe. Irene mentioned this word, tribe. It's where people gather together through identifying with each other. And actually, tribes have been found to be one of the most successful formats of society in human endeavour. So tribes are actually quite healthy places, because you're with like-minded people all working for a common goal, looking after one another. And we operate in many tribes. I would say I'm obviously a landlord tribe, I'm a cat lovers tribe, I'm a motorhome fanatic tribe. We all have these different tribes that we operate in, and in Property Tribes what we've done is all our forums are curated under different topics for different strategies. So we have a holiday let tribe, we have an HMO tribe, we have a commercial property tribe. So it's really, really easy to go into the area of operation that you're interested in and find the content that you're looking for. So we created, in response to the coronavirus crisis, we created a coronavirus advice tribe. And that's really just been incredibly busy over the last, I guess, 8 weeks. Just lots and lots of landlords extremely worried about how they're going to survive. Obviously, some with rent arrears, some, student landlords worried that they're not going to tenant their properties for the new student year, landlords asking about what kind of help they can receive from the government. So we've had all of that, that kind of content on there. And in fact, just before we went into lockdown, we travelled up to London and we did an interview with landlord and tenant solicitor David Smith about the kind of issues that coronavirus was going to bring for landlords. And one of them, of course, was access for gas safety checks and repairs and that kind of thing. So we did a video with him about that issue and advice to landlords. David also very helpfully created for us a template letter to reply to tenants who write to you saying that they can't afford the rent. So we have a template letter on Property Tribes of how to respond to tenants that say they're in financial difficulty and how to deal with them. And we've done some other really good stuff with Bill Irvine, who is one of the foremost authorities on LHA and universal credit in the UK. We've done a really interesting video with him about LHA and UC issues during the coronavirus crisis. So right now our forums are totally dominated by people that have issues created by coronavirus.
Okay. This one's from Mandy. He said in most meetups I come across a lot of newbies. Where do you feel the safest place to signpost them for their education within property? Are you allowed to do that or not?
Well, yes, I'm always happy to signpost people to education. Obviously, there's property tribes, and there's other good forums like Landlord Zone, for instance, is recommended. I personally think that everybody, even newbies, should join the National Residential Landlords Association. It's very, very important to have the advice and support that they offer at any time, let alone this time. They have a helpline which is open 9 to 5 that you can ring and ask questions. They have tenancy documents that you can download, all sorts of good stuff. So definitely the National Residential Landlords Association, they have a whole programme of education for landlords, even if you're just starting out, to how to manage HMOs, all sorts of really, really good courses, some online obviously now, but they're when they can, there are kind of courses that you can attend as well in person. And the other person that I really, really rate is John Howard, who's on this call later. John, to me, is just a breath of fresh air in the whole training sector. He's offering 40 years experience for a really worthwhile day out of training with him for a few £100. And I've been on one of his training courses, so I'm speaking from first-hand experience. So my advice for property education is actually to go to the industry stakeholders and those that have been in the business for over 10 years and really avoid the whole, what I call, get rich quick wealth creation sector, where you can buy a property for £1 and you don't need any money, and you can get into rent to rent, and you can be a millionaire in a year with no money. That is a completely different sector to the sector that I operate in. It's nothing to do with anything that I do. You never hear them mention the word tenant. Tenants are our clients. Without them, we don't have a business. So I don't recommend that people go to all these YouTubers and people offering shortcuts and magic fairy dust. I call it buying a ticket to see a unicorn. That's what I call it. You could exchange the word property for Bitcoin or fine wine or antiques, whatever. It's another kind of get rich quick type environment. And we all know, everybody on this call will know that property is a long-term investment, even more so now. If you're doing buy and hold strategy, you need to be thinking 15, 20 years. Julie's mentioned PEAS, the property education, I've forgotten what it stands for now, forgive me. It's a new body that's run by Cyril Thomas, and he is trying to raise standards within the property education sector, and he's setting a kind of charter and standards, which is very, very admirable of Cyril to be doing that. So yes, PEAS, when it kind of gets fully launched, is a good place to go and find accredited trainers. But you know, as ever, you've got to do your due diligence. You can't believe somebody on YouTube just telling you that they're a multi-millionaire, because that's nonsense. Best way to mitigate your risk in property is to do your own due diligence. Don't believe what anybody says. Don't believe what I say. Do your own due diligence. The best person to make every decision about your financial future is the person that you see in the mirror every morning, not a third party telling you something that you haven't checked out yourself. So due diligence, absolutely key.
Yeah, dream catchers, I think, is another phrase for them.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, they are. They're dream catchers, aren't they?
I like that, yes, because they tend to create their dreams at other people's expense.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of them actually, what I would determine profiteering from this chaotic situation that we find ourselves in. and I find that pretty despicable, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that come on here, and I speak to people on a regular basis. I have been had my dream catchers myself as well, where I've chucked good money after bad, if you like, sort of thinking, well, it's a quick ticket, but there's no quick fix or anything like that. It just comes down to, as you said, using your due diligence, using your own hard work, and then mixing with the right people, which is what we've created here as well in the Midlands as well. We've got a good group, and we get a lot of advice, and this is all free advice that people have. So I'll thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been good, and we wouldn't have got John, who's following you, if you hadn't recommended him. So thank you ever so much, Vanessa. I don't know whether you can say at the end or pop back on at 3:15, because there are one or two more questions I think to ask you, but we need to get John on next.